Alex, having been a facilitator, in the world of adult learning for over a decade now, one of the observations, of course, is that people react to learning in very different ways. You'll get some people who are diving straight in and diving in and doing stuff. You'll get other people who are sitting back and reflecting and maybe coming back to it later. So clearly, people learn in very different ways. So what's the relevance of that? When we're running programs within the world of adult learning.
Thanks, Gareth. It is a really interesting topic, one which has been explored for many decades. Cole very famously looked at the way that adults learn, and he described that if I was to translate it into simple language, some people like to get stuck in, as you suggested. Other people like to reflect, so think about it before they do anything about it. Some people like to understand the theory behind it. Others like to observe. The truth is that we all will have a preference towards one of those four, but actually we all have a bit of everything in us. Mm-hmm. And if you take that one step further in terms of a theory, if you think about helping adults learn, there's two things we need to take into account. One is that in a room full of people, you've probably got a selection of all four. So therefore, you need to give a bit of each of those four. So time to reflect, time to observe, time to apply, and some of the theory. But actually, each individual will learn better if they use an element of all of the four rather than just their preference. So your job as a facilitator is to make sure that you mix it up. Now, the other interesting thing in all of this is that you're also dealing with other differences in the room, like, for example, psychological preferences. So very famously from Jung's theory, you've got people who have an extroverted preference or an introverted preference or a sensing or intuition or a thinking or a feeling. All of that stuff mixes up as well. So it's complex, but also gives you a great opportunity to make it really rich for people.
And what does making it rich look like and feel like, Alex, from your perspective?
So if you think about learning design, you think about a really good quality learning intervention for adults in particular. What you'll find that it will have is a bit of everything. So it will have, as I said earlier, opportunities for people to apply themselves. It will have opportunity for people to reflect. So maybe some individual one-on-one reflection time or small group stuff. You'll have some theory. So you'll have some stuff that actually underpins it without making it complicated. And then you'll have opportunities for other people to observe things that are going on. So you'll build that into your learning design, but you'll also appeal to those psychological preferences. So people who are much more comfortable speaking in a group, for example, with an extroverted preference versus people who would rather work in a small group. Sensing versus intuition, the way that they process that information, make sure that you're listening out for their language, but also thinking about your language as well. But also the fact that some people like to take decisions through thought rather than feeling, or some people prefer feeling over thought. So thinking about how people will assimilate information through those preferences is really important. So mix it up, appeal to all of those things, and you get something that's really, really rich. And if you build that in consciously into your learning design, still remembering that actually you need to engage those people right the way through it, through involving them, that's what enriches the learning, and that's what will appeal to those different learning styles that we've talked about.
And I guess ultimately, if you do that well, then everyone's getting a really rich, as you mentioned, learning experience, and therefore much more likely, therefore, to go and apply.
Exactly. They're going to find it more appealing and more interesting to engage with.
Okay.